Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started with MLCB 2024 edition. Thanks to my co-chair, David Knowles, and the organizing committee, Anshul, Suen, Gerald, and James, and UW for providing this beautiful space to us today. So for those of you that haven't been to MLCB before, I wanted to share a little bit of history with you. MLCB actually started back in 2004 as a workshop of NeurIPS. At that time, it was called NIPS. And it continued on for, I guess, over 10 years after that until 2016. And the participation grew. And at some point in 2016-ish, NeurIPS basically told us that MLCB is like a mature science now. Before then, it was kind of an emerging area, experimental between computer science, machine learning, and biology. And it was too mature to be a workshop at NIPS, which are supposed to be for emerging areas of machine learning. And at some point in 2017, we were thinking what to do. We can't be a NeurIPS workshop anymore. So we decided to do this experiment where we created MLCB as an independent conference. And the first time we did this, to take it easy on us, we made it co-located with NeurIPS, which worked out really nicely. And we had actually over 300 participants. But then the pandemic happened, but we still grew. And we were virtual for a few years until last year, where we created this hybrid mode where we have in-person and kind of virtual meeting. And the last 2 years have been in Seattle, next year to be determined. At the end of the conference, we'll send a survey to see which location is most suitable for everyone here. Here's some information about the submissions that we get. So the submissions that we've been receiving are really high quality. It's been growing over the years. Sorry for my graphs that I had to put together this morning. But this year we had about over 100 submissions. Small number of them were not very relevant, so the blue parts are rejections. We have 18 really strong oral presentations, a bunch of poster presentations, which you'll see today. And the poster presentation will be just the building across the street called the Allen Center in the atrium. And as of a few years ago, we started also having this PMLR proceeding where we accept 8-page full papers that get reviewed for our conference proceeding, and a small number of them are published in the special issue of PMLR. It's also fun to look at how the field has changed over the years. So this is the word cloud of the papers, or I should say titles of papers submitted to the first occurrence of MLCB in 2004. And maybe some of you were not even born yet. I was thinking about that today, and it's just amazing. So you might not realize that at some point, kernels were like the neural network of that world before you. And so kernels and proteins and learning, of course, and I think interactions were a really big thing. So now what has changed, like 14 years later? Well, first of all, this was generated with ChatGPT, so I think it's like probably a more accurate representation of what has been submitted. And I think there's a lot more regulatory sequence models, RNA, DNA. Back then, it was mostly proteins, it seems. Well, today, proteins are big too, but I think regulatory sequences are the next big thing, plus RNA. And they're still learning, and they're still multitasking. But there's also fine-tuning. You can see the fine-tuning in the bottom. Well, this was the orals, so it's a small select number. But what about the entire MLCB submissions? So I think the regulatory seems to be mainly in the oral. So that's an emerging, really important area. But the whole submissions, we have DNA, we have predictions, data. Data is a big thing now. I think back in 2004, people didn't really care about data that much. It was more about the models, maybe. So that's the fun part. So we're going to have an exciting program ahead of us for the next 2 days. We have 5 keynote speakers. You'll hear from 2 today and 3 tomorrow. We have 17 oral presentations that are about 20 minutes each. We've asked the presenter to make sure they have a 15-minute talk to leave some time for question and answers. We have 18 spotlight talks, which are 3-minute long, and really they're like an advertisement for the posters that got the top scores under our review system. And I mentioned the poster session will be later today across the street in the Allen Center. And today we also have this fun panel. And the topic is foundation models for biology, when it's useful or not useful. So that should be fun to talk about. And finally, I'll end with thanking our sponsors. So we have very generous sponsors this year and the last few years. This year, our sponsors are Recursion, Deep Genomics, Shape Therapeutics, and Institute. So thank you so much. And the generous donation from, or funds from these sponsors allow us to actually have this free conference, as you all can enjoy.